I was not the girl that said, I'm going to be a teacher when she grows up. I was the girl that said I was going to be a country music singer. And I started my junior and senior year of college 9 months pregnant. Wow. I have two boys that are 12 months and 11 days apart. I highly don't recommend going that route. I just get up and I go to work and I wash clothes and I teach kids and I clean the kitchen. And
I used to live in a very, very tiny apartment. It was 300 square feet. If you don't know what 300 square feet looks like, it's very tiny. It's a box, literally.
And you don't work on your business at school because that's double dipping. If any teachers are listening to this, that's not how this works. The harder you work, the more money you make. But what if that's not really what the life's all about?
So one of my favorite quotes by Nelson Mandela is, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall."
When I launched that course in November of 2018, I made over $100,000 in 7 days. And my life changed forever.
Wow, that's incredible. The Avenue of the Strongest is a podcast dedicated to exploring the lives and experiences of the most inspiring individuals from around the world. Each episode features interviews with fascinating guests who share their insights and wisdoms on a variety of topics, including education, impact, motivation, health, and learning. I'm your host, Ania Chowdhury, and today on our show, we have the pleasure of welcoming Kayse Morris, the founder of the CEO Teacher Movement, which focuses on providing teachers the resources to utilize their skills to build a sustainable and purposeful online business outside of the classroom. Kayse is a mother of five, former full-time English teacher, speaker, and course creator who has helped thousands of teachers break through the classroom glass ceiling and bring their wildest dreams to life. She is also the host of the CEO Teacher Pod, which has recently hit over 1 million downloads and is a top marketing podcast for teachers. Kayse, welcome to the show.
And yet that was so professional. We were just having like a normal conversation. So thank you so much for making my entire day. That was special.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to go ahead and take you back to your teaching days. Hopefully, some of them are good memories, but I know that you used to be a 8th grade teacher, correct? Can you tell me why did you go into the teaching route? Do you remember those memories of when you were younger and say, "Hey, I wanted to be a teacher"?
This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning educational publisher serving over 1 million students nationwide. If you're a kindergarten to 8th grade teacher or principal, be sure to check out our supplementary workbooks to get your students ready for standardized state testing. We cover all subjects from kindergarten to 8th grade. Use the coupon code AVENUE for a 25% discount off of all purchase orders. Visit us today at argoprep.com/store.
Absolutely not. I was not the girl that said, I'm going to be a teacher when she grows up. I was the girl that said I was going to be a country music singer. My mom was really good about keeping me humble, though, and she said I needed a plan B, C, and D because that was probably not going to happen. And I didn't decide to be a teacher until I met my husband because he was in education. And honestly, the reason why I decided to be a teacher was because I got the summers off. I know that's not like that's not a beautiful story, but what happened when I began teaching was really how this new life began for me, and that I was really put on this planet to teach other people. I just didn't realize it at the time. And yeah, that's kind of how my journey in education started. Is when I met my husband, I had my associate's degree in nothing really. And so I decided to go back to college at 9 months pregnant and get my degree in early childhood education. And I started my junior and senior year of college 9 months pregnant. I have two boys that are 12 months and 11 days apart. I highly don't recommend going that route. And it was like I was in it to win it at that point. No one thought I could do it. And so I took 2 days off with my first and 3 days off with my second. Wow. And it was the hardest thing I ever did, but also it got me to where I am today. And I realized quickly that I actually don't love teaching early childhood education. First grade I cried every day. And I got hired during the recession of 2008. So that's why I got a job at the middle school, is because they weren't hiring. There was a hiring freeze in elementary schools in my county. And that's how I started teaching 8th grade English and language arts. And it was not love at first sight, but it became the love of my life, and teaching and children are just a really big part of my life. And it turned into what it is today, which if you would have told me this is what my life would look like, I never would have guessed it.
No, I love that. I want to learn more about your journey from when you started selling teaching resources from your kitchen table in 2013. I know you went through a 4-year long stint through deep postpartum depression to now founding the 7-figure CEO teacher movement. I'd love to learn more about that journey. So you're a teacher. When did you have the thought like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start selling teaching resources? And now how did that actually evolve into today, the company that you run?
I didn't realize how dark my life would become once I started teaching. And it wasn't because of my job at the time. It was because I was struggling through postpartum with having these boys 12 months and 11 days apart. But I was very young and I didn't know, no one had ever spoke to me about depression. And I just thought something was wrong with me. I had the perfect life. I had the husband, the kids. I had the job that I had always wanted. And I was not fulfilled. Every single day, I felt like I often say that my life was black and white. I was on this carousel of like, I just get up and I go to work and I wash clothes and I teach kids and I clean the kitchen. And I was like, is this all there is to life? And so I was really, really struggling. And I hate it for those kids that I taught for 4 years because I don't think that I gave them the education that they deserved. And I was sick of feeling that way. So I found out about this website. You may have heard of it before. Formerly known as Teachers Pay Teachers. It is now TPT. And someone told me that I could go on there and pay to get lesson plans to teach my students. And I was like, yes, sign me up. I'm drowning over here. So I bought a novel study for The Outsiders. I was teaching the book The Outsiders. All of you listening, if that's your favorite book, me too. And I kind of fell in love with it. I was like, wow, this teacher that I don't know gave me and these children a really good experience. My soul was set back on fire for teaching, and the kids were engaged, and that teacher gave those 118 students the teacher that they deserved. And so I was sitting there watching trashy reality television with my husband. I was drinking a glass of wine, and I was like, hey, I've been buying these lesson plans off of Teachers Pay Teachers. It's so much fun. I think I should do it too. And that was in 2013. It was October. And he was like, yeah, you should do it. You'd be good at it. And that was the end of the conversation. And so I decided to create my own novel study first, and then I did some ELA projects. At that time, I was teaching 6th grade. I was soon to be moved to 8th grade. And the first month, I made $50 just selling my lesson plans online. Basically, taking what I was already doing, putting it online. And it was like this, everything inside of me changed. I went from, the way that our reality works is that we have thoughts and we have feelings and we have emotions. And once we get all those things in a line, it becomes our reality. And in the classroom, I hated my duties and my responsibilities, and I hated what I was, the way that I felt every single morning. And so that emotion led into my reality of, I don't enjoy being a teacher. This isn't for me. I'm not making what I deserve. I'm undervalued. I'm underpaid. And I kept rehearing that or getting that said to me by teachers on my hallway as well. And it was just conditioning me to believe that this was the future of education. And once I decided that I didn't want those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions, and I said, I'm going to be a classroom teacher, but I'm going to make my worth. I'm going to, just put in a little extra side hustle to be able to feel like, oh man, I love my job again. My kids deserve this. And everything began to shift for me, and my reality began to shift. And now I own a multi-million-dollar company because I got really great at those thoughts, those feelings, and those emotions.
No, I love that. And if I'm not mistaken, when I was looking more into you, you mentioned that you first started off Teachers Pay Teachers just to possibly cover a Netflix bill, right? First, that's how most entrepreneur journeys start. It's okay. Let me start this as a hobby. It would be great if it can cover my Starbucks for the week, right? It can be fantastic if it can also cover my Netflix subscription and then Hulu subscription and then my phone bill. All of a sudden, it starts covering more and more and more, and you're right. You absolutely go through a very important mind shift, and I see a lot of that. It's a very similar journey of a lot of entrepreneurs when they start something out as a hobby. Right? It's not like you had an MBA. You weren't coming out of an MBA institution saying, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead. This is my business model. Here are my products. let's go ahead and make some money, right? That's not the thought process. It's totally different. But I admire what you've done because you've actually taken the leap from taking TPT is an incredible platform, by the way. Love the company, love what they've done. They've empowered so many teachers nationwide. Yes. However, you've taken it one step further, and I think that's very important to discuss, which is you've created a business, you've created a company really outside of TPT. You know, TPT is a great platform. It gives teachers the ability to make income. Some teachers make a fantastic income, but you started your own company. Walk me through that. When did you realize, hey, I need to start CEO teacher, right? When did you realize that, and when did you start the CEO teacher movement?
Okay, so in 2013, I started selling my lesson plans. And like you said, it was the Netflix bill. My students often start with that small goal, as you said. And when I say, well, bring me to my knees crying, like, will send me pictures. I have to really focus to not cry about this. Ballet shoes of their kids, paid for their kids' braces in full, to dream cars, dream homes, dream lives. And it's like, wow, like whatever your why is, like that's reason enough to get started. And a lot of our students, they do just start selling their lesson plans online, but there are so many that don't want to do that don't love that. And so what kept me up at night as my business began to grow, by year 3, I was making $90,000 in addition to my teaching salary. For me, that was life-changing money. I get chills even still saying it because, you know, my husband was an assistant principal not making $90,000.
Right.
And so for us, that was a vacation for our family. That was not having to worry about going out to eat. That was everything. But what kept me up at night was, what if it all goes away tomorrow? I don't come from money. My dad is one of the most influential people in my life. He grew up very poor. And so the lack mindset has been instilled in me since I was a little girl. The harder you work, the more money you make. And I don't believe that anymore. Now I believe the less I work, the more that I can make when I focus in on abundance and all those things. But so for me, that kept me up at night, is I can't leave this security of a teaching job. I didn't want to, honestly. I loved my job again. And I don't know what I'm going to do if it all goes away tomorrow, because I put a lot of validation in myself. I'm an Enneagram 3 in my worth based on how well I do. And so I'm laying in bed and I was like, I got to start something different. But I'm going to leave the classroom first, and I'm going to give it 100% and see what I can do. I was making over $100,000 in 2018. I decided to leave the classroom. And when I decided to leave the classroom, my only goal was just to sell on TPT. And I was making more money than ever, but I realized that thing again of, I gotta branch out. And so I was 7 months pregnant and I had this epiphany. I saw an ad come up on Facebook of someone selling an online course. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to answer the number one question people ask me in Walmart. And that is, how did you do it? You must be struggling. You guys are, you can't be making that much money on TPT. And I'm just going to teach them how they can make money on TPT. That was the goal of the business. And, when I launched that course in November of 2018, I made over $100,000 in 7 days, and my life changed forever.
Wow, that's incredible.
And from then on, I said, I will always learn how to diversify my income. And in the beginning, I just taught teachers how to sell on TPT, but now my passion is I want them to feel that security that I felt. And we have one of 10 success paths now. There are 10 different ways that our teachers are making money online. All of them we've done and we teach, but that's kind of how the CEO teacher began to take form. But it didn't look like that in the beginning. It was a hot mess. That was just 4 years ago. It feels like it was a lifetime ago, but then again, it feels like it was yesterday. So that was when the CEO teacher truly began, was when I created this course and realized the demand for it. And then I decided that I wanted teachers to see themselves in our company and our brand. And that's where we are today.
Kayse, thank you so much for sharing that story with me. I love stories, and I love listening to. I can pull up your company mission and what you do on your website, but typically you can't really find the company stories, and that's what matters the most. You and I actually, we share a similar journey. So I also grew up in a very low-income household. We grew up in New York City. We grew up in poverty. I used to live in a very, very tiny apartment. It was 300 square feet. If you don't know what 300 square feet looks like, it's very tiny. It's a box, literally. I started ArgoPrep when I was in college. It was a hobby. Really was a hobby. I was supposed to go to med school. I wanted to become an oncologist. In our culture, that's what you become. You become a doctor or you become an engineer. When you become an entrepreneur, it's heavily, heavily frowned upon. Heavily frowned upon. So I started ArgoPrep in my third year of college. Of course, no one believed in me. They told me that I was crazy. I went out to eventually, in my fourth year of college, I wrote a test prep workbook. I wrote it with one of my friends who attended MIT. We spent 3 months. And basically, it turned from a hobby into a marketplace, right? We understood that, hey, we were actually making some money. We were generating some money. And it's covered a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, right? Mm-hmm. And then it started covering the Netflix bill. And over time, it kept growing and growing, and we experienced hypergrowth for a period of time. We're a team of 40. And then, of course, even though at that time we were already a 7-figure revenue company, back after my first year of college, I still didn't feel like it was enough. I was very scared. I was very nervous. What if you lose it all?
Yeah.
And so we had an idea to diversify. We bought and opened up a preschool, a 10,000 square foot facility in Brooklyn. We have 25 full-time teachers working there. Even when we had 2 multi-million-dollar companies, it wasn't enough. And it's my mindset, right? It's that, I don't know what happened, it's that growing up mentality that really affects you. It was never enough. Now we have another location. We're in the education space, but I finally, in the last 2 years, have shifted my mindset to say, enough is enough. It is enough, and you do have to have that radical mind shift, or else you will really burn yourself out. But I just wanted to share my story as well, because you won't learn about my story anywhere on our company. We're an ed tech publisher. We serve over 1 million students nationwide, but I wanted to learn your story because I think sharing stories are very important, and that's really what helps inspire other people.
Thank you so much, because I had no idea. I do my research, and I had no idea. But you're so right. We forget that when you keep it simple, sometimes like that is the biggest opportunity for growth because of how we were raised. The harder you work, the more money you make. But what if that's not really what the life's all about? What if that isn't it? And so it's been so refreshing to dial it back this year. I'm actually bored because I'm having to find happiness in other things because we're making more money than ever and I'm working less than ever and we have less people on our team than ever. It makes no sense to me. And so my husband is like, you got to find a hobby because that's why I want to learn how to play guitar. There's so many things that, I'm like obsessed with working out right now because it's not healthy to do this in your work thing. And teachers especially are really bad about like, feeling like they have to constantly be working in order to be like validated. And so thank you for sharing your story with me though. That helps me get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for listening. Or you probably don't have a choice because you're on here. But thank you very much. I do want to talk about the next thing, which is the struggle of every company or every business. So one of my favorite quotes by Nelson Mandela is, the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. What was your headspace like in those key critical moments during the early stages of your business? Because if I ask you right now, there's no way it was just all good, yeah, all hyper growth and just everything was perfect and there's almost never a story like that, right? Mm-mm. So I like listening to those stories. What was that like, this early stages of your business? Any critical issues that you had to work through or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know another term besides psychopath that I could really like put into words of like who I was the first 5 years. Because of that, it might all go away tomorrow. So, harder I work, the more money I make. And so I was burning the candle at both ends. I was waking up at 4 a.m. and I was working on my business till I went to school. And you don't work on your business at school because that's double dipping. If any teachers are listening to this, that's not how this works. And then when I leave school, I'd come home and I'd exercise, I'd feed the kids, and kids' bedtime was 7 p.m. sharp, and I would work until until it was done. And I don't know if you know this, and I mean this I don't mean this in a bad way, but teachers are very, I'm trying to think of the word here. In the business space, it is very much, or it was, dog eat dog. If she wins, I lose. And so I carried that with me, as well as everyone that was in the TPT world. They used to rank us. We used to every Monday get a report, and they would tell you where you stood. And that was it. You had to be the best in the state, the best in the United States. And so we were chasing this dream that was not healthy for me. I'm very competitive in nature, and so I was not my best self. I didn't collaborate. I didn't really speak with people. I was just like in the zone, trying to do as much as I could without telling anyone my secrets. And there was all these different things that were happening. And then in 2015, which was 2 years into the journey, I started a YouTube channel, and I was like starting to feel that like, this is so much fun. Like I just want to share it with other people. And so I started a YouTube channel, which is how most people find me. Don't go back there. And I found joy in sharing what I was learning. Then people started being very mean to me in our space, very mean to me on social media, saying, don't tell people what we're doing. Why are you giving away all the secrets? And that was like kind of like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. So I took some time off, and then I started either my master's or my specialist degree. I'm not sure. I think it was my specialist degree at this time, because in my mind, I'm like, I need that. My daddy is in my ear. You got to have the education. You got to have something to fall back on. So I'm having plan B, plan C, and I'm getting my specialist degree, and I was required to read a book. And that book was Dr. Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I had 4 days to read it. And I bought my first audiobook, and I listened to it on double speed. And to say that Dr. Covey changed my life would be an understatement. But I learned about win-win. And I learned about when they win, you win. And I learned that everything is not a competition, that rising tide lifts all boats. And he did it in such a professional and profound way that it encouraged me to kind of get out there. I started listening to Pat Flynn and Amy Porterfield and Jenna Kutcher. And every day during my planning period, I got out and put my feet on the floor. And so that was what I did. I listened to them and I filled my mind. So it started out really ugly. And I don't think that I know for a fact I didn't truly fix my mindset until I said I was going to quit teaching. And I poured everything I had into being a better version of me. And I'm still growing, of course, but that was 5 years into the journey. So it was not all rainbows and butterflies, but now I can say that it really is. And it's awesome.
No, definitely. So you've helped thousands of teachers start their own business online. So I want to ask you, what are some effective strategies for building a strong brand and an online presence as an education entrepreneur?
So we love to teach frameworks here. I think you can Google search anything, Chat GPT, whatever it's called. You can AI anything, right? And when someone asks this question, they're like, tell me the best business strategies. And though we say you throw a flare pen at a business coach these days. I mean, they're everywhere, right? And so for me, I wanted to really teach concepts that were true to who I was and that have proven the point for me, and then teach those to our students. And so when I say that we have a proven strategy for success, it's not only helped me, but it's helped thousands of other teachers. You understand that if through ArgoPrep, I know. So first, when people come to us, we teach them the school method, and that is for building their online business. And the school method is an acronym that stands for setting your intention. And so we really work on that thoughts, the feelings, the emotions of who do you want to become? Because if you don't know who you want to become, then I can't help you get there. And so I start asking you the question of what do you want? And teachers will tell you, I don't know what I want. So we do a situation where we find out what you want, which is great. Your passion is beautiful, but not all passions make money. And so there has to be this marriage between what you're passionate about and what people need in the marketplace. So that's what the S stands for. The C is going back to Dr. Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. C stands for choose your main thing. Dr. Stephen Covey says, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And I will live and die on that hill. I believe that in my business. I believe that in my life. Whenever you're having trouble in your relationships, always go back to what is your main thing. H stands for, now, how will you solve a problem? Because there are no successful businesses without being able to solve a problem. O is own your journey and choose your success path. So we mentioned that we have 10 different success paths, and our students like to choose more than one, but in the beginning, we want them to find their main thing and choose which success paths they want to start with. The next O is orchestrate a plan and mind map. I love Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And he talks about building desire in your mind, but there is nothing without action. And action brings clarity, and clarity produces results. And so when we orchestrate a plan, I truly mean that. From day 1 to day 365 to 10 years from now, remember, we got to know where we're going if we want to get there. And then the L stands for learn more, and then really focus in on exact steps to grow your business. People want to jump into building the list, or they want to jump into all of these really advanced skills, but we have to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable and get good at being a beginner all over again. And that's where I think a lot of people are afraid to go, is that they don't want to go back to being a beginner, or they don't want to watch themselves fail. So the school method is how we start teaching people how to build a business.
I love that. And you just mentioned so many books. So I guess it's only fair for me to ask you for the next question, because I know you read a lot of books, right? On my notes here, I have you. Do you read 3 books? Is it 3 books a week?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what season it is.
Okay.
But yes, I listen to audiobooks on double speed, so I feel like it's kind of cheating.
It is not cheating, and I was going to actually bring that point up right now. People always ask me, "You must read so many books." First of all, I don't read books. For me, I process through visual learning and auditory learning much faster. So I do a lot of podcast listening. I can play an audiobook version of any book at 2x the speed, and I can consume that content just as fast. So I love that. It's not cheating at all. You're just utilizing what works for you, right? You have an advanced learning behavior for auditory listening, and so you're using that to your advantage. So that's fantastic. But my question is going to be, what are some must-book reads? I think you've already mentioned 1 or 2 of them, but what are some must-book reads for people that are listening? Like, hey, these are some books that you just have to read, period. I don't care who you are. You better read
everything.
These books. Yes.
Yeah, number 1 is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It was written in the 1930s. He doesn't shout out a lot of women, but we're okay with that. We'll cut him a little bit of slack. But for me, that was the book that I was like, oh my gosh. I learned how to use auto-suggestion and visualize the life that I wanted. And 4 years ago, I became the person I am today 4 years ago. I saw her already. And I lived and breathed in that. And so I will always say that book, I carry that book with me all the time. It's in there. It's always with me in case I need to revert back to it, or if I'm having an off day. I love the book, if we're talking life-changing here, by Michael Singer, called The Untethered Soul. And it is a book about letting go of the exact steps you think you're supposed to take. And with education, that was really hard for me. I saw this education ladder of I'm supposed to go to my master's and my specialist and become an administrator. That's how I worked the system. And so letting go of the life you think you're supposed to live and allowing your life happen to you on purpose was a huge revelation for me. So I'm not sure if you've ever read that one before.
I'm going to have to check it out. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, anything. He's very sciencey, over into the next level. So if you're not into that, but Becoming Supernatural is really good. And I'm currently reading Energy Codes. Have you read Energy Codes?
No.
So if you're into meditation and again, I believe in energy now. I used to see people and be like, wow, they're so radiant, or man, I love their vibe. And now I realize that they've worked really hard on that, and that their energy and their vibe is the reason why they are so successful. You never meet a grumpy old person that is complaining about everything and you go, they got the life that I want.
Yeah.
And so have you ever noticed they said, I hear when it rains, it pours. I heard someone say everything bad's going against me right now. And so I was like, why does that happen? And so that's kind of how I've picked the books that I've enjoyed, is I realize that good things do happen to good people. And our number 1 core value is be a good human, be good to all people. And so all of those books will help you be, I think, a better human.
Well, 100%. I will definitely check out that book you just recommended. And since you're now in the meditation phase, did you ever hear of Vishen Lakhiani?
Maybe. What's the name of the book?
Well, he has a couple of books out, so I would highly recommend reading any of his work. He's the CEO of Mind Valley, which is a huge company in this space. And he's fantastic. Vishen Lakhiani.
Can you spell? Do you know? I don't know how to spell that.
Vishen, and his last name, I probably will spell it wrong, but that's going to be Lak.
Got him.
Google should, or they should autofill that for you. But definitely check him out. He's incredible.
He was on Jay Shetty the other day. Oh, I've seen this guy.
He's the CEO of Mind Valley. Yeah, he's very big.
Okay, I can't wait. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely.
Anything else you want to share with me that I can learn off of? I'm here for it.
No, thank you for that. So I want to ask you, let's talk about some advice. What advice can you give to somebody just on the edge? You know, they're thinking about starting their own business or pursuing their passion, but they're really hesitant to take the first step. That's most people, right? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but I just want to drive it home real quick, and that is be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm relearning that skill right now as I'm learning how to be athletic-ish again. I'm trying. I don't like to fail, and I definitely don't like to fail publicly. I don't want anyone to see what I've done wrong. So when I started my teacher business, I didn't tell anyone for 2 years. I didn't tell anyone, not even my mama. My husband knew.
Wow.
Because for me, I didn't want to say I was going to make all this money, even though that's what I thought, or I didn't want to say I was going to have this business and it not work. Because if someone heard me say that and it not work, then I was a failure.
Right.
And so my advice to you is that it's okay to put your head down and work and keep it a secret, or to shout it to the rooftops. Either one of those options is fine. But first, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. There are going to be ups and downs. There are the highest highs in this business, and there are the lowest lows where you feel like you have no one to talk to. But also, be okay with being a beginner. I don't know why we feel like we are less than when we have to admit that we didn't know something. A lot of our students say, well, Kayse, I've been selling online for years, and I don't think your program's for me. It's too much of a beginner. And my question back to them is, are you as successful as you want to be?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's why I came to you. Well, then you need to get comfortable being a beginner again. But you have to make that decision. If you believe my programs can't change your life, then they won't. If you think I'm going to get comfortable being a beginner and start from the beginning, they can. So those are the two pieces of advice that I think could change everything if you can really grasp them and stick with them.
I love that. I really, really love that advice. I'll tell you why. Most people think that the secret of success is complicated. It is a complex formula. They want to read a book that gives them a step-by-step complex guide. Every self-help book that you read are very basic. They're simple, yet they're hard to execute. I'll repeat that again. I've never read a self-help book where it was like rocket science. You have to do this, and then you do that, and your problem solve. No, it's very simple. But the problem for most people is that it's so simple, but they don't actually practice it because it's hard to practice. So I love your advice that, you do have to become a beginner. You have to be willing to relearn because probably you haven't learned the right way in the first place. It's like playing the guitar. I am a self-taught learner. I have a very good friend of mine who's professionally taught. When I play, he makes fun of me because he says, you're doing a bunch of things wrong. Like, it sounds fantastic, but you won't get to success. And of course, I'm not pursuing this as a real, I'm not trying to make money off it. It's a hobby, but he's absolutely correct. You have to go back and relearn the proper techniques. And so I think that's very important because people are unwilling to do that. Just like me with the guitar. I am unwilling to relearn those proper fundamentals, So I get it. But for people listening, listen, there is no complex path to success. It's really basic, but it's also complex. All those basic things that you'll learn is going to be complex. It's hard to do day in and day out. You have to have
consistency.
Grit. Yep, you have to have consistency. Yeah, 100%. And I also do love your first advice as well, which is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah, that's a really good one. Now, I do want to talk about being athletic, you mentioned that. I know you are doing something called the 75 Hard Challenge. First of all, I have no idea what that is, but I know today's day 29 or day 30 for you?
Yeah, look at you, 29.
Day
Yes, thank
29.
you.
Okay, please explain to us, what is the 75 Hard Challenge?
Yes, so there is a podcaster, Andy Frizelli. Don't quote me on that, but he's actually a marketing genius, which is why I got attracted to the challenge to begin with. He wrote a book. You cannot get it on Audible. You cannot get it on Amazon. You cannot get it anywhere except for his website. I live for a good marketing funnel. And so you buy the book and then he ships it to you. Of course, there's like 50 upsells or downsells that you can buy with it. And then he challenges you. This is the hardest challenge in the world. You use all these hashtags. You upload all these photos. He's a marketing genius. I love it. So I actually bought it for the marketing purposes and I got so hooked on his thing. He actually owns the company First Form, which is why now I buy all of the supplements from that company. Okay. And so it's funny how it's just this is how it started. But it's a mental and physical toughness challenge. It lasts for 75 days. You drink a gallon of water. There are 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each. They have to be performed, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. One has to be outside. You must read 10 pages a day. They cannot be audible. So I listen to books, but I also read them now. You have to stick to a meal plan. I'm currently counting macros and no alcohol, which being sober for me was the hardest part of what I have done. And now it is the best part of what I have done. I'm just so proud of me. I was going to drink a glass of wine at least every single night. So it's been great. Like, I'm glad we're talking on this day because I feel really good. Some days are really not good. But also we were doing a challenge with our program and I thought, how amazing is it I'm doing this challenge and I'm struggling. I'm going to share all of it. But then this is how my students feel when they come to me. So to me, it was this parallel of let me show you what it really means to be a beginner and to fail and to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And let me show you my challenges, but also let me invite you. Now you see the company, the multi-million-dollar company, but I was that girl then. And so it helped me get back into the mindset of who I was. And it's a great way for me to share this, but also to share about what we have going on in our company as well.
Well, I love that. And congrats on almost getting to the halfway mark, right? It's incredible. Yeah, that's hard.
Thank you.
It's hard, but you're doing it. You're absolutely doing it. Kayse, I want to ask you one last question. A question that I really love asking. Who has been the most strongest or most inspirational person in your life? And what lessons have you learned from them?
I hate to answer this probably the way that most people answer it. And I think that it all goes back to your raising, but I mentioned my father to begin with. My daddy is the OG entrepreneur because he grew up poor. He did whatever it took. For him, success was my mom being able to stay at home with the 3 kids. Like, that wasn't heard of in his life. And so my mom read the meter. We made sure we understood how much our bills were going to be every single month. My dad, I didn't know my dad until I was probably 18 years old. And I tell people that now that know us and are like, no way. I've never said this to him directly, but he was gone before I got up in the morning, and he got back whenever dinner was ready, and he read his newspaper, and I went to sleep. And honestly, that was our relationship. But what I learned from this man who was very charismatic, I've never heard my dad raise his voice. All I knew was that daddy's worked really hard. But I learned more about him through that lens than I have anyone else of be a good human, be good to all people. And you do have to work hard in the beginning. You do have to have that discipline, as you were saying, that consistency. That is the secret to success. And so now that my dad, he made it for us, that was his goal. He's actually even more charismatic now and super fun to hang around with, and we're best friends. But I learned the most from him, watching him do that day in and day out, even though at the time I didn't realize it.
Wow, I didn't realize we have actually more in common than I thought. That is the same exact story with me, exactly the same story.
Really?
Never, ever saw my dad. By the time I woke up, he was gone working. He came back at 9:30. He is the most hardworking person I know. He worked 1,000 times harder than I could ever do in my life.
Yeah.
And I never had real conversations with my dad for literally until I moved out. until I moved out. He just worked. He just provided. That's all he could do. Hey, I'm paying the rent. And so I didn't really know him for who he was, but now I have a much better understanding, because now when I go to my family, and family is very important to me, I see my dad talk about his dreams and desires and thought process and what he wants to do. So I'm so glad you shared that. Well, I didn't realize we have so much in common. Kayse, thank you so much for sharing that. It means a lot.
You're welcome. I think that the universe has a way of bringing people together too that need to find each other.
So, Kayse, I know that you are a huge fan of the Grateful Dead and the Widespread Panic, right? They're two bands, right? And we were talking a little bit before we got started. You went to 75 concerts for the Grateful Dead, or was it Widespread Panic?
Widespread Panic, yes. I've been to 75 of their shows, yes.
Okay. Do you know the Grateful Dead good enough?
Yeah. Do I know? Yeah, I know them. I know them well too. Okay. They didn't tour that much. They haven't been touring. I'm actually going to a show in May of theirs, but they're no longer the Grateful Dead. The original members have since gone on. They're Dead and Company. But yes, I know a lot of music. I like all music though, like rap music, J. Cole, country music. I love all music. But yes, those are my favorites.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to play a little game.
Oh, no.
That our team has written up. Okay, don't worry if you get it wrong.
Okay. Oh, I'm nervous now. All right.
All right. So I'm going to read you the question. Which member of the Grateful Dead is known for his unique guitar style, which involves using his fingers and a pick to create a distinctive sound? I can give you choices.
Jerry Garcia?
Yes, that's correct. You're a fan.
Yay! I know. I have a Grateful Dead sticker on my cup right now. Yeah. He's no longer with us. Rest in peace, Jerry.
Oh wow. Okay, I did not know that. Okay, by the way, I'm going to check out both of the bands and their music right after this. Literally. Let's go on to someone who you've been to 75 concerts. I love that, by the way. I love concerts. We were just talking about how I went to 4 concerts this month. Same band, Muse, the best band in the world. I'm sorry. But
all right, I'm checking them out too.
Here's the second question. Widespread Panic's album, Ain't Life Grand, was produced by which famous musician?
It was produced. It's not Billy Bob Thornton, is it? He's not a musician though. He's an actor.
No.
He did a video for that.
I can give you some answer
Let's hear 'em.
choices. I'll repeat the question. Widespread Panic's album, Ain't Life Grand, was produced by which famous musician? We have John Mayer, Neil Young, Tom Petty, and David Bowie.
Neil Young. It's Neil Young.
Is
it not? Is it Petty?
On my notes, I have Tom Petty. I hope it's correct.
If it is, that's amazing. I actually have a tattoo here from Ain't Life Grand. Actually, it's a quote from that. So yeah,
wow.
all across my back.
At least these are some good questions.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So my tattoo says, "In my mind, I was a child, and it felt good." And so that's from the song "Ain't Life Grand."
I love that. Okay, third question. The Grateful Dead's most famous concert venue, where they played over 50 shows, is known as what venue? We have the Fillmore, Red Rocks Amphitheater, Madison Square Garden, and the Warfield.
Is it Madison Square Garden?
It's the Fillmore.
Is it the Fillmore?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, maybe all these questions that I'm telling you, maybe I have it wrong, but my notes, it's the
I just
Fillmore.
don't like being wrong, so I'm like, no way. But Red Rock, have you been to a show at Red Rocks before?
Which state is that again?
It's in Colorado. It's near Denver.
No, I have not.
Okay, bucket list number 1 is a show at Red Rocks. Change your life.
Now I have to go because my favorite band, Muse, is playing there literally this April. So I followed them down to Texas, Philadelphia, but I know they're playing there this April. So I have to go down to Colorado now.
And it might be a little chilly, but so Widespread Panic sells out Red Rocks. They've sold out Red Rocks more than anyone. And so I've been to see them at Red Rocks like 5 times, and it's amazing. So just do a quick Google search on Red Rocks Amphitheater. Oh, and then go on YouTube. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop talking about music in just a second. And look up, I think it was Zach Bryan sang a song the other day at Red Rocks when it snowed. And the vibe, the energy, untouchable.
Wow, okay. I will definitely check that out.
I'm sorry to your listeners that have no desire to know about all these things.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, I lied. They're playing in the Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado.
Okay. Well, you can still go visit Red Rocks, but you got to see a concert.
That is true. That's true. Okay, I'll definitely check out their site and see if they have any artists. I'm a huge fan of music in general, so I'm sure I'll find plenty of great artists there. Okay, I have let's see. I have one more question for you. Let's see. Let's do this. Widespread Panic lead singer John Bell goes by what nickname?
JB.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, I know that's right. I've actually gotten to meet him a few times. So, JB.
Kayse, I am extremely competitive as well, but I will tell you, if you created a quiz for me right now on my favorite band, I promise you I would probably get 9 of the 10 questions wrong. People don't understand. Just because you think you're a huge fan, it's actually like these questions are pretty hard.
I appreciate it, though. This was so much fun. This is way more fun than most interviews.
Kayse, thank you so much for joining us today. Your passion for helping teachers build their own businesses and to pursue their dreams is truly inspiring, and we appreciate the valuable advice and tips that you've left us with. For our listeners who want to learn more about Kayse and the CEO teacher movement, please be sure to visit her website at kaysemorris.com. That's KYSEMORRIS.com. And also follow her on Instagram at Kayse Morris. Kayse, thank you so much.
Anna, it was so nice to hang out with you today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as well.